welcome to Healthy Delights. In the last show, we concentrated on nuts and we talked about their protein value. Today's show, we're going to be talking about the legumes. These are your pulses, your beans, your chickpea and lentils. And we know that they're a rich source of fibre and also a good source of protein. Now, Joyce, for our first dish, we're going to be looking at basil lentils, which sounds exciting. Now, of course, the main ingredient in this dish is the lentils. Tell us a little bit about why you've chosen this particular recipe today.
Well, actually, most people think, well, lentils are so boring. And it really isn't. I think you can do so many things with lentils. And these brown lentils, especially with basil, makes it so very special.
Oh, great. So, obviously, the excitement in the dish will be the basil, which gives it its taste and its flavour.
Right.
Now, of course, lentils, people think, oh, I'm going to have to be cooking for ages. Can you tell us a little bit about the cooking time of lentils? How long will it take to cook this dish?
Actually, the lentils itself takes about 15 to 20 minutes to cook,
right.
depending upon the quality of the beans.
Right. So,
good quality ones, oh well, that takes much shorter.
All right. So, we hope you've got the good quality ones today.
That's right.
Good. So, chop away. Just tell us now a little bit about the added ingredients. Of course, lentils are the key ingredients and the basil, but we have an array of other vegetables and herbs and spices here. So, just give us a little tour of the cookery table and what's involved.
Well, when you look at the lentils like this, it's just brown.
Okay.
You know? Of course, I cook the lentils with the potatoes, and the potatoes get brown as well.
Right.
So you've got to put some color in it.
Okay.
So I thought to myself, well, it only doesn't look good, but it even tastes better when you put some nice red, rich paprikas.
Yes.
Or peppers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have in the middle here
onions and basil.
All right.
And there's a secret, because in my recipe book I wrote, you have to cut it in strips. Well, actually, this is the secret. You put one leaf on top of the other, like I've done over here.
Okay.
Roll it like this.
Fabulous.
And then you cut it in strips.
Oh.
You see that?
Lovely. So you not only get tips in terms of what your ingredients are, but how to cook. Now, as we want to remind you again, all the recipes in this series, we'll be using Joyce's Heavenly Delights cookbook. And so I'm going to just check up on you, Joyce, to make sure you're using all the ingredients you stipulate here. Yes, we've talked about the lentils, we've got that, and the basil and the peppers and the onions. Fabulous. And we'll have to try our hands at this cutting of the basil, make sure we get it as perfect as you've got it there. Fabulous. Okay. What else do you have over here, Joyce, and how are you going to use them?
Well, I'm going to saute the onions and the garlic. The garlics are here.
Great.
Crush them.
Okay, so that's...
Saute it with the onions together. Now I'm going to get my pot with oil in it already.
Okay.
And I'm going to saute them.
All right, so while you're busy doing that, we'll talk about the nutritive value, Angelette. So the two ingredients here was the lentils and the basil. Let's start with lentil. Why is that so important in health? What benefits can we gain from having lentils on a regular basis?
Well, the good thing about lentils is that they're very simple to cook, they're cheap, and very versatile as an ingredient. As Joyce would say, you can use lentils as a thickener, both when you're making roasts or if you're making a stew. Lentils can be used as a natural thickener, but also they're a good source of protein.
Yes.
And so it's good if you're a vegetarian to combine your lentils or your beans or your pulses with a rice or a grain, so rice or quinoa or any of those other grain-like substances. If you combine them, it makes a more complete protein.
Right, that's what I wanted to ask about food combination. You're talking about it's important to combine the protein and the grain. And how does that work in the body in terms of its benefit?
Well, what they say, they compare all the kind of proteins in plants to egg as a standard.
Right.
An egg has a particular amino acid profile, which amino acid simply is a building block in a protein. It's a bit like a chain of pearls, and it's one of those pearls. That's what an amino acid is. but it's very complex actually.
Yeah.
That where I'm simplifying it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But when you look at beans as a food group, it's deficient, not deficient, but it has lower levels of methionine, and grains tend to have higher levels. So when you combine them, they tend to form a more complete protein.
That's right. So good. So it's good to combine food groups, which we're going to be doing here. So we've talked a little bit about the lentils, and those digest well?
Yeah. I mean, the thing about any kind of food is that if you do have like digestive issues, sometimes things like legumes and pulses can cause problems like flatulence or bloating. Yes. And one of the ways that you can improve that is to soak the beans overnight, add ginger to the cooking.
Oh, good.
That increases digestibility, which is useful.
Good, so it's better socially acceptable.
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. Now, the second key ingredient was the basil. As Joyce was chopping away there, it was a lovely aroma. You can smell that really beautifully. Now, tell us a little bit about that. Basil, how does that, is there any nutritive value
Well,
there?
of course. I mean, like all the herbs, it has specific nutrients, plant nutrients that are beneficial for the body, antioxidants. Basil is not a very well researched herb at the moment, but we know culinary speaking, it's used in lots of different recipes and it adds really incredible flavour to food.
Thank you, Angelette, for that. Anything you'd like to share with us? Should we talk about the ingredients, how much you were using? You had your cup of brown lentils, as we've said here. You've added your water stock. I saw an interesting powder here in the jar. Can you tell us a little bit about this mixture, what it entails?
Well, I think every country has their own different kind of vegetable broth, what they call it.
Okay.
And this one here for me is especially good, and every housewife should be very careful when they go shopping buying this vegetable broth that it's totally vegetarian. That means it has no animal products whatsoever.
All right, so if you're on a more plant-based diet, this is a good one to choose because it's more vegetarian.
They just have to watch what's on the package.
Yes, good. All right, and so we've got that. You've added your oil, your onions, and so we've now got the mixture on the cooking now.
It's
fabulous.
cooking now.
Good. And how long did we say that would be?
Well, because we used cooked lentils. It's cooked already. So, and by the way, you can, if you're a housewife, but you have to go to work full time, you can have all different kinds of lentils and beans already soaked and cooked and frozen in portions.
All right.
So that when you need it, you can take them out, and all you need to do is to saute your onions and garlics and put all your herbs and everything in it.
Fabulous.
And you've got a meal ready in 15 minutes.
Right, so that's it. We've got the mixture on and it's there cooking away. So what we'll do, we'll now get on to the second recipe and we can have a chance to sample that later.
Okay.
Fabulous. Continuing our bean theme, we're now going to demonstrate a Mexican bean dish. Now, Joyce, can you just tell us a little bit about the bean that you've chosen for this particular recipe?
Well, I've chosen borlotti beans.
Okay.
The Mexicans use that.
All right.
For their hot beans.
Okay, so that adds a certain flavour, no doubt.
That actually, and it's got just a very special taste.
Oh, good. Okay, so we'll come back to that shortly. Okay. Now, tell us a little bit. You've got an array of colour here, red, orange, green, white. Tell us a little bit about the ingredients that you've chosen to mix with the dish.
I'm chosen onions, garlic, and a little bit of red chili.
All right. Not too much, I hope.
Not too much.
Okay.
Not too much.
And you've got your carrots and your peppers here as well.
That's right.
Is that coriander there?
That's right. Fresh coriander. That just belongs to it.
Okay, so what does coriander do in this particular dish?
Oh, it just puts a very special flavour. Of course, not everybody likes coriander, but most people like them. The Asians
special,
and Indians,
taste.
They use that quite often.
Okay, so we'll leave you to get on and mix the recipe. We'll come back to this.
Yeah.
Now, Angelette, of course, beans are a good source of protein. Can you tell us a little bit about what this particular bean might be doing for us in terms of its nutritive value?
Well, it's quite difficult to find research on specific beans. Generally, you have a lot of research on soy, but most of the other beans, it's generic research.
Right, okay.
Now, borlotti beans, just like any other bean, have a skin, which is a type of fibre that's very difficult to break down.
Right.
But inside the colon, which is at the end of the digestive system, we have special bacteria that can actually break down some of the fibre. and they make something called a short chain fatty acid.
Right.
And they find that people with higher levels of short chain fatty acids tend to have lower levels of colon cancer.
Right.
So in that way, they think that beans are beneficial because of the way in which they work. The bacteria works to use these types of fibre to break it down to make the special short chain fatty acid.
Great. And, you know, there's a lot of talk about people from different countries and research which shows that the higher the bean dish is, the better some of their digestive system is, you know, in terms of their health, their gut health. So obviously that theory matches with what you're saying there. So of course we've got the beans, and now the coriander is another herb there that she's added. Anything you'd like to share with us about coriander and the value there?
Well, coriander acts as an antioxidant. A lot of herbs also act as antifungals or antibacterial bacterial agents. So sometimes that's quite beneficial to help maintain a positive bowel flora, which is the bacteria that lives in the digestive system, which is important for immune system, for liver detoxification to support the liver, etc.
Right. And it's so exciting to know that foods like this can be so tasty, but as the health benefits are really remarkable as well. Now, Joyce, that seems to be cooking well. In our first dish, we did say we were coming back to it because the lentils are cooking away, but you also had one additional ingredient to that basil lentil dish that you're going to tell us about, that you're going to introduce now. I think it's ready to be added to the recipe, is it?
Yes, that
looks good. So
now that's ready.
Fabulous.
And that's the last thing that I put in, the last ingredient I put in.
Okay.
One of the last, because we have to put some spinach in there too.
Fabulous. So just to remind you, with our basil dish, we had the lentils and the basil that we talked about earlier on. And now Joyce is adding spinach, fresh spinach, yes?
Yes.
Now, of course, we know that spinach has a lot of nutrients, and these are one of the health foods that a lot of research has shown is beneficial to our body. Okay, Joyce, so you're adding some more spinach to that recipe, and Angelette is going to tell us a little bit more about the spinach value.
Well, spinach is a great ingredient. You can eat it raw, or you can cook it slightly, because spinach contains oxalates, which sometimes can bind to minerals. So cooking it slightly reduces the oxalate inside the spinach.
Right.
But in terms of a great ingredient, it contains something called carotenoids, which are also in carrots. But because we have a lot of chlorophyll in spinach, the green colour overtakes the orangey colours. But it still has the benefits that are needed to protect us when we're making energy. And for many other functions, it's a very powerful antioxidant, and it comes in many different varieties as well.
Yes, so that's fabulous. So a healthy dish there with the basil, the bean, the lentil, and the spinach, which is really topped it off nicely. And then, of course, we've got the Mexican bean dish. And so those are cooking. There's one or two other ingredients that you need to add to this dish here with our Mexican bean dish to give it a little bit more bite. So what are you doing now, Joyce?
The last little bit that I have to put in there, the last little ingredient, and this is what really makes the dish, is the cumin.
Cumin, is that cumin seeds or powder?
Cumin seeds, which you roast first, and then you grind it with
with the
pestle.
Okay, fabulous.
And this dish now is ready to eat, believe it or not.
Okay.
And also the other one.
Fabulous. So we've got
basil lentils.
Great. 2 dishes ready, your basil lentil with the spinach dish and your Mexican bean dish. We hope you'll be trying these recipes at home so you can see just how delightful and tasty healthy foods can be. The final dish we're going to demonstrate today is bhajia, an Indian variation of falafel, but with some special additions that Joyce is going to tell us about. So Joyce, the main ingredients in this dish, of course, we have the split pea. And can you tell us why this one is so special? You've called it bhajia. Tell us where that originates.
First of all, it was my favorite, or one of my favorites when I was a young girl. My mother always put spinach in it.
All right, okay.
And of course, bhajia, bhaji in the Indian language, is a green vegetable.
Okay.
Okay, that could be spinach or any other green vegetable, leafy vegetable.
Right, okay.
And so this is why we call it bhajia, because it's got that green leafy vegetable in there.
Right. And what gives it the special taste? because obviously you're going to mix it with split pea. Talk us through the ingredients.
Okay, I have here lentils already put through the blender.
Okay.
But don't blend it so that it's totally creamy.
All right.
Leave some little bits and pieces in, whole pieces. Don't do it so that it's totally creamy.
And is that to add the texture, is it?
Well, actually, it's nice to have a bit of a bitey taste.
Okay, so something to bite on texture.
So, here we are.
Those are the, what do we have there? Are those the...
Those are the, actually those are the ones which have been soaked in the water. And you can soak them, and then you can put them in little plastic bags and freeze them. Right. And when you need them, it's there.
Okay, good.
You know.
So here are the blended ones with the little bits of corn in there, the split pea actually, which gives it a little bite, a little more texture. What else do you have?
I have some garlic. I'm going to put it there.
Now, in your cookbook here, you said cloved garlic minced, but you can actually use the mortar and pestle there. Is what you're doing?
Yes, I use this almost every day in my kitchen.
Okay. Does that bring out the taste when you use that a little bit more? Some people feel that it does enhance the flavour when you use the mortar and pestle. Did you find that, Joyce?
Well, I do actually. The Indians, many Indian families don't have a blender, so they use this pestle and mortar, or they use a rolling pin.
All right.
And they're the heavier ones. I guess Angelette could explain to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, they've thought about, whether you should chop and mince spices or garlic or whatever flavouring you're using, or whether you use a pestle and mortar. They say when spices are crushed, they tend to release the flavour so that they flavour the food better than when they're chopped.
That's interesting. So there's always some research or some beneficial reason behind whatever we do here. Now, fantastic. Now, I've noticed a very interesting mixture here, Joyce, that you've added. Curry paste. Now, tell us that obviously there's a number of additional ingredients here. Tell us why you've added this and what it will do for the flavour.
Well, this curry always enhances the flavour, doesn't it? And it belongs to it, actually. In any Indian bhajia, curry belongs to it. And usually they put curry powder in it, but nowadays, the modern housewives, of course, this has been existing for a very long time, a lot of housewives use curry paste. So you can either use curry paste or you can use curry powder.
And this is accessible in the shops?
Everywhere, in any supermarket.
Fabulous.
Anywhere.
Now, while you're doing that and mixing that, we'll come back to the additional ingredients. I'd like to just ask Angelette a little bit about the key ingredient here, the split pea. Again, another of the pulses from the legume family group. Tell us a little bit about the benefits of split pea and what that does for us nutritionally.
Again, legumes have been well researched because of their benefits, their low glycemic index. And what that means is that the actual sugars in the beans get released very slowly into the blood. And that's really beneficial to help to lower the glycemic index of any dish. So if you were having potatoes, for example, you could add chickpea hummus, because that would lower the glycemic index. Here, you already have added the split peas. And maybe what would you add to this as a dish? How would you serve this, Joyce?
Actually, I would... myself, personally, I would serve it with some salad. It's just a perfect meal.
And so with that low glycemic index, the release of sugars are slowed. And so if you've got diabetes or something like this, that this would be a good dish, a good food to have, because the release of sugars would be reduced.
And also, it helps people to feel fuller for longer. So, often people have cravings, maybe in the morning or in the afternoon for foods because their blood sugar has dipped. This type of food, because of the low glycemic index, helps people feel fuller for longer.
Fabulous. Now, there's a lot of colour there. The green there, that was spinach you added there, wasn't it? You had added spinach. Now, Angelette, in the last dish, you told us a little bit about the value of spinach, the iron and so forth in the diet. Is there any further research about the benefits of spinach and what it does in our body? For our body?
Well, they say the carotenoids, which I spoke about in the last section, they actually help to boost the immune system. They help with the white blood cells. So that's quite a useful additional piece of information to again say that this dish is very nutrient rich and a good choice for snacks or for main meal.
And of course, with the immunity building properties from the spinach there, that's obviously a very good one to keep you from your coughs and colds and so forth and boost the immune system. Fantastic. Now we have a few other ingredients. Can you talk us through everything else you've added while we were talking, Joyce?
Well, actually, there is not much to it. There's onions there and garlic there, spinach, chopped peppers.
Okay.
This time I got it right. Now, I'm going to put a little bit of lemon juice in it, which is about a tablespoonful.
Right.
And you know why I do that? To take the bitterness away.
All right.
All right?
Okay.
So that really makes a difference.
Okay. And that would be with the bitterness in terms of which ingredient? The spinach or
the beans.
The beans.
The beans.
Fine. Okay, so that would be interesting to taste. I don't know if you add lemon juice to your bhajias at home, do you?
Well, yeah, lemon juice is a great ingredient for the same reason that Joyce said.
Yes. So now we're at the stage where we're going to be frying those. Now, of course, we spoke about the benefits of the methods of cooking, you know, the high heat, low heat, and what that does to the food. So Joyce is going to fry the bhajias in shallow oil. Can you tell us a little bit about what oil you're using
in this
Joyce, and why you've chosen? Yeah.
Yes, I chose in this one olive oil.
Olive oil, right. And generally we tend to cook olive oil at a lower heat, is that right? Do you want to talk a little bit about how oils change in cooking, Angelette?
Well, like I said before, oils have structure.
Right.
Inside this oil bottle here, we have lots of tiny molecules that when they're heated, the energy in the heat actually makes the structure start to vibrate and shake. And it can change the shape of the structure. That means when you eat it and it goes in the body doesn't recognize it in the same way. And we want the body to recognize it. So low heat is better because it gives less energy, so there's less damage to the structure of the oil. That sounds quite complicated, but simply put, all you need to do is fry with a little bit of oil at a low temperature. Because of course, this type of falafel or bhajia can be deep fried as well.
Yes.
I mean, that's an option.
Yeah.
So this is a healthier option.
Because of the shallow fry. Now, Joyce, you've got a number of them in the pan there frying away. How many minutes would you stipulate that this should be sufficient to cook this through?
Well, 2 to 3 minutes.
2 to 3 minutes, so that's not a long time at all. Great. Anything else either of you would like to add about the dish? We've spoken about the benefits of the split pea and the spinach and then the various herbs and spices. Now, Joyce, the curry paste, very warming taste. If you think about the background where this all came from, would you be putting a little bit more curry in it, or how much have you put in it for today's dish?
Actually, I'm very, very careful with putting spices in the foods. I think that we have to be able to taste the food and not just the spice.
Yes.
The spice enhances it.
Yes.
But it shouldn't take over the ingredients.
That's a good rule, good principle to follow. So, those are cooking away nicely. We've covered the beans, and the focus today was on the protein in bean health and in the beans rather, and how healthy that is for us. We've spoken about the added ingredients, the spinach and so forth. And so while those are cooking, we'll review today's focus on protein and nuts, and that we did last time was one source of protein, and of course the legumes were another source of protein. Now, Angelette, are these food great for young people, say for instance, the youth? Sometimes they're very particular about what they want to eat. And how do you think they would gravitate to something like this? Would this be a dish that you would think would be quite exciting for them?
Yeah, I think that youngsters would probably like it in a pita bread with some salad. They'd like to put maybe ketchup in it or another kind of condiment. But it's a good option, a sandwich option. And I think young people would like to eat it that way. And if they cook it themselves, they're much more likely to want to eat it.
That's right. So, Joyce, a very good family-friendly food then, you'd say?
Oh, indeed.
Good. Well, that's all for today in terms of our focus on bean health and the legumes, spices and pulses that we spoke about. And so, do let us know how you get on with these wonderful dishes, and we're going to have a chance to sample them shortly. To conclude this session, I now have the delightful task of tasting the finished product. So let's try the basil lentil and see what that comes out as. I'm sure it's going to be fabulous. And let's see if we can taste all the ingredients. Okay, a little dip from each of us. There we go. I can certainly taste the basil.
Tasty.
That's quite strong there. You can taste the basil coming out there. Anything else?
The spinach gives it a lovely texture.
Fabulous. And the seasoning, Joyce. Do you want to say anything about the seasoning?
Well, the seasoning in this is actually the garlic that is the best.
Good. But it's a
That's
good
the
blend.
best part of it, yes.
It's a lovely blend.
But I must say that garlic really finishes a lot of these dishes off.
Fabulous. So that was the lentil basil. Now let's try the spicy Mexican bean and see what that, how that delights us.
Came out good, huh?
Yeah.
I taste the tomatoes
And the cumin's coming through
first,
as well.
and with cumin then the spices come through afterwards. So that one was equally satisfying. I think that was a success with those two. And of course the last one, the bhajia, or falafel as we know it. So let's try that, but obviously with the Indian touch. So let's see how this one favours. So again, nicely laid out. And we'll use the forks for these.
And very colourful as well, with the green
That's
and the
right.
red and the
That's
yellow tinge from the turmeric.
I can say that for myself. It's great.
Compared to the other falafels I've eaten, you can taste the difference. You can taste the sort of Indian flavour coming through there. Great.
And do you notice that there are bits of beans which are not totally blended?
So it gives it that
It's a
added
sort of a
texture.
nutty taste.
Yeah,
Good.
definitely.
So here we are, the basil lentil, the Mexican bean and the bhajia. Delightful.